Hi, Silvia.
Hi, Silvia. So you have two guests, is that right?
Yeah, I
All
will
right.
be hosting two guests from now on, from the next hour. Yes.
Okay. So enjoy your time. It was
Thank you very much.
and
Good night.
good night. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Silvia, for introducing me. And we are almost at the 18th hour, almost 19th of our live streaming. And I would like to thank really much CE Milano, that is supporting us technically and is really helping us to make this live streaming happening and be real online now. It's almost 4 o'clock in Italy, and I would like to introduce my next beloved guests. They are from Japan. They are two, and they are Hiroshi Tamura and Fumiko Ichikawa.
Hello.
Hi, Hiroshi-san.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi, Fumiko-san. How
Hi.
are you?
Good.
4 a.m.
How are you?
Oh, perfect. I got a coffee and I'm fully awake.
Wow. I was just wondering why you guys push yourself so hard. Why you made it 24 hours. It's really nice.
Because it's the
Nice
first
for
time
us
that
to be
someone thought about that, and it's, I have to say, really exciting to be part of it.
Great.
And watching one conversation and the other next to it is really, really interesting. Every time there's a different topic, and since yesterday at 9:30, and really, I don't know how to describe it, but it's really, really nice, this experience.
Good. Good. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Sounds nice.
Thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you for inviting us. It's
It's a pleasure.
exciting opportunity.
It's a great pleasure for us. And let me introduce you a little bit to our audience.
Great.
We have Hiroshi Tamura and Fumiko Ichikawa. They are both co-founder and managing director of Republic. Republic, we can somehow define it as a think and do tank, a sort of mix, pass me the term, please, between a design firm and a research agency. And their clients range from companies, educational institutions, or governments in the national and the regional level. So I had the chance to meet Hiroshi-san and Fumiko-san quite a few years ago, and I was still a student. This is something that we will talk about later on. And it was the first time that I had the chance to go to Japan to join a workshop which I was involved just 1 year after the great tsunami hit Japan, and especially Tohoku area. I have to say it was a very engaging and very emotional experience. Even it was my first time in Japan, and I really fell in love with this nation. So today, that's why I'm really, really happy to have you both here chatting together. So thank you again, and I'm sure we will have a very interesting conversation together.
Great.
So,
I hope we will keep you awake.
No problem for that. The first thing I would like to ask you is, of course, about your company.
Yes.
As we will discover later on, it has really a lot to do with the topic we will discussing today. So that's why I'm introducing it. So what about the origins of your company, Republic? When did you realize that you needed to create such kind of company?
Yeah, as you mentioned that we met together first time, I think it was in 2011, and we were engaged with iSchool. The I stands for innovation at the University of Tokyo, where design and project-based innovation is taught. When we say innovation at that time, it was at product and service level, or we say organizational level. But after we started to engage with revitalizing the tsunami-devastated areas, including Kesenuma, that we went together with, we were awaked to see that sustainable innovation will not happen within the closed loop. For instance, Kesenuma City will never exist without active relationships with external entities at a variety of levels, such as government, industry, culture, and education. Then we co-founded Republic in 2013, almost a year after we first met. aiming to develop communities and cultures for co-evolving in open and cooperative manner. In this sense, we did not think we were to devote to helping out public entities. Rather, we deemed innovation ecosystem should be open public, so named ourselves Republic. So we really make much of openness. That is the key when we think of sustainable innovation ecosystems. We do researches as well as practices involving heterogeneous stakeholders, including clients. Therefore, we admit ourselves not a business consultancy, but a think and do tank for sustainable innovations. That is the thing, what is the foundation of our company, Republic.
Yeah, super. Super. Fumiko, would you like to add something about that? About this
Well,
point?
I think you were there when things happened, I guess.
I were on the way happening.
We were on the way, right? Like also Alessandro was there, you were there. We went into that kind of really cold Kesenuma with snow. You don't really see what was there anymore, right? And then that was really the moment that we kind of felt like, theory is one thing, but really practicing is what really makes those theory exist. So we felt like we need to find our own firm where we feel like this balance can be sort of like pursued, like as like a two wheels that really runs the bicycle.
Yeah, totally. It was really touching by hand what really was the aim of the design process was really something inspiring. Our students, so I've never done this before at that time. So it was really the first chance to see really on my hands what the job of design is about. I mean, people, history of people, restarting communities. Yeah. So that's really the very important stuff that I have to really experience it also on myself.
Great that you felt the same way as we did.
So somehow, can we somehow the principles of Republic as a think and do? I think, could you explain a bit what those words mean in your word, in your work, in your approach to design?
So I think already Hiroshi somewhat touched on that already, but so it's funny, like already by the time that both Hiroshi and I worked as researchers, people call us somewhat like an activist because we tend to question how the system works. And so there was always this part of us which can't really fit into what people would call as like a design firm or consultancy agency. We felt like we need to also reinvent ourselves as we research, and all the theories that come to us through books or maybe conferences or papers, we felt like we need to sort of digest and see what it really means in practice. And definitely the Tohoku and the disaster was the starting point for us. And so definitely the word think tank is there. And we definitely don't want to sort of let it go, because that's where we have all these learnings from the previous challenging peoples, like people who challenged theories and tried many things. So definitely theory is one pillar. But then we wanted to sort of state ourselves as the do tank. So, and not just engaged in a certain community, just a single one, but if anybody or any kind of regional government approaches us, we will try to sort of be there and see what we could do. So that's why we sort of decided to put this think and do tank as like sort of the definition of our company. So, and then, but the challenge always is that I think all the practitioners, they struggle, right? So when you have so many things happening in the field and so many things that might not work, the theory part often, it's easy to let it go. So nowadays we try to sort of put out all this information as well. So we also have this magazine called Moment, and try to sort of release different kind of information and available, so everybody can also do both think and do wherever they are.
Well, I remember that also creating networks was one aim of your activities also, not only staying in Japan as a nation, as a culture, as a community, but you also try to go out of the boundaries of the nation and try to connect communities, not only from Japan, from all over the world. Did you succeeded in that? Did you created networks all around, and what are the possibilities here?
I think the foundation that we constructed still is like, how do you say, like still really much like live and active. So quite a lot of inspirations and connections and collaboration still happen together with, just like we are with like the Politecnico and one company here in Japan. I think whatever that is needed, like now in the time of this really strange pandemic times, something that we are trying to pursue is far more global and common than we think in our everyday lives. So whether it be in university, like such as yourself, or sometimes it's a city government, Danish Design Center has been very generous with us when Hiroshi has initiated this Fukuoka's Innovation Studio. So we still sort of work in that way with the network.
Great. I think that exchanging experiences between cultures is something that is totally enriching human beings. Most of all in this moment that physically we are not able to fly from one place to the other. And so the biggest way to be connected is the one that we are using now. So online, when you are online, you, from one side, we were talking with another guest before in this live streaming that paradoxically we are, I mean, this is what we feel in Italy because we have been in total lockdown.
It's very serious.
You feel yourself completely isolated on one side, but on the other side, the online networks and the connections that you have previously established, they were somehow reinforced during these moments, these months. And so you feel somehow very, very connected to the rest of the world, even if it's not physically possible, but digitally, really, you feel yourself not so alone. So I have to say that establishing those kind of relationships and also cross-country relationships make you feel really in contact with the rest of the world, and is really the source of inspiration in these days, I think.
Definitely.
So when I contacted you, when we talked in the last weeks, we asked you to suggest us one word, one keyword for our word book of keywords. And you suggested watashi. I hope I have pronounced it well.
Perfect.
Thanks. And what about the meaning of this term? How is it related to the COVID-19 dilemma of being under lockdown and staying at home?
Yeah. So watashi means I or private in Japanese. This is the name of our company's Republic. We usually use we or you as a subject, but this time we were stuck. Suddenly we were forced to stay at home. That interrupted us of being an activist. So we cannot meet people, cannot go into the field for research. That caused us difficult to use the subject we and you. The COVID-19 forced us not just physically staying at home, but to reflect internally and to think what is the meaning of one's life. So we chose watashi as a keyword in contrast to the name of our company, Republic. Our practices in the lockdown situation can be said private.
It's true.
So don't be surprised if we change the name.
No, never. True. And also this continuous shifting from private and public is really in line with what I was saying before. I mean, you are alone, you're one, but we are together. And so it's always a shifting of the focus between we, the rest, the private and the public, I have to say. Would you like to add anything, Fumiko, from your side?
Definitely. Maybe it's better to sort of like think about how the COVID-19 situation was here in Japan, and then maybe you feel resonated. You feel the same. So, like you've mentioned earlier, like about how serious it was in Italy, and I was so surprised how medically advanced country like Italy would face such a situation. And well, Japan was not legally, like the police or any kind of forceful lockdown was not there. But I think it pretty much had the similar type of impact in a way, because by the end of February, we started to go remote work. And pretty much until now, we have been that way. So, and all the things that happened in Italy mostly happen here. Like supermarkets, like long queues, or specific food starts to disappear from the shelves, and also about like, shortage of toilet papers and people really running after it, although, you don't really have to really worry about supplies. And one thing was for sure is like, I think we are, there's a stereotype, and maybe we are so like socially conformist type of nation. And even without the lockdown, I think a lot of people have really changed their behaviors. Now, that's a good and bad, because that means like if somebody like your company tells you, everybody would follow that instruction. And so the question now is like, how much is it on your own? Like, did you yourself, like, did I think about this as myself, and then really made that decision to be, locking down by yourself, or was it somebody just saying it or socially pressuring? So we need to think about both the risks and the opportunity here. Like we are able to make decisions as a nation or a community, but then how much of that is coming out from your own will? Because sometimes, like we still have lots of papers in this Japan country for contracts, and quite a lot of businessmen had to travel to the office to stamp on the actual paper, which became like a big discussion about shouldn't we be considering more digitalization. So definitely, I think there's this risk, like, are we really thinking on our own and behaving the way we should?
Yeah, you're totally true. It's a matter of awareness and a matter of consciousness, I have to say.
Exactly. So that's why, go ahead.
In Italy, we didn't realize in the beginning what was happening. We were underestimating it, I have to say. I mean, if I think about myself in the end of February, when the biggest part of the pandemic spread out, we were seeing the news and we were totally unaware of what would happen. No one was thinking about having a lockdown. We didn't know even what a lockdown was, because we experienced the total lockdown. And as you both said, awareness was really one key of this period, because in the beginning people was not, I mean, they told me to stay home. Why should I have to be home? Is it really so dangerous? So I have to say that in the beginning, we really underestimated it. But then after 57 days of totally lockdown, I think that something has changed in our minds. And we understood that probably we have to rethink about what normality is. Because what we understood as normality before probably will never be the same after.
Yeah, true.
Now that we have in mind that this can happen, this is something that can happen again. We don't know when, but we have to be prepared. Otherwise, as you said, it's totally surprising that we have a sanitary system, we have a health system that should work. It's described by everyone as one of the most working ones, and then collapsed somehow. So I think that from this side in Japan, the concept of awareness, self-awareness of people is much more deeper somehow sometimes. If you respect the rules and you have in mind that if your life is in danger, then really you have to follow even if it's strict, the rules. So totally awareness is a point that was characterizing this period. And now I would like to go with you to some future perspectives. I mean, starting from what happens during COVID-19 pandemics, as we said, now our habits are completely changed. The daily schedule has become more flexible, and I mean, we have to rethink what was normality and what will be normality. So in this framework, what do you think that the power of design is heading? I mean, what design could do in the future, looking at these emergency scenarios? Designers have frequently been depicted as problem solvers, we say. Do you think there could be a change in this role in the future?
Hiroshi, do you want to?
Yeah, what do you think about that? Sorry.
You start.
Should I go? Yeah. So that's something that I think Politecnico, the Poli.design has been always sort of thinking and challenging the design community, right? So I think there has been, like our company states ourselves as Republic, I think there was a lot of this notion of we or you. And then like one of the primary thing that you will learn in the beginning of the human-centered design is like, think who's your target, or who are you designing this for?
Yeah.
I think we came to this point where whatever is happening, and if everybody would sort of join this way of thinking in a designerly way, it's really critical that we remember to really sort of utilize your own senses and start from I, because I think without that kind of notion, it's really not easy to think about others. So I think we came to this point like, okay, maybe it's not just about problem solving, or maybe the problem solving has been overly emphasized. And there's so much in your lives that maybe it is not an obvious and critical problem, but there's so much that we sort of sacrifice in the speed of things happening in our world that we sacrifice. So maybe there's these kind of like ways that we sort of observe others, but also observe what you're feeling and sensing. And I think that's quite critical to sort of make the whole system. So we are maybe like the minimals, like the unit of the social system, and how we can do that in this sort of like a really industrial and chaotic world. How can we sort of refine ourselves is quite crucial.
Yeah. Do you think it's a matter of meaningfulness also? Or do you think, I mean, I was thinking about how we spent our time during the pandemic. We spent a lot of time within our houses. So do you think that as designer, we should go for a meaningful meaning of life or something else?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's true. So, and back to the keyword watashi.
Yeah.
So this reminded me of design mode that Ezio Mancini suggested in his book, Design When Everybody Designs.
Yeah.
And he partitioned those for design into problem solving and sense making. And for some time, the design has solely been considered as a tool for problem solving, as Fumiko mentioned. And indeed, many of our projects serve such purposes. But as much as that is needed, probably what has been more absent here was the power of design that needs to be activated for oneself. So in this context, sense making is a really strong concept. How we unleash the power of design that enriches our lives. So.
Yeah, totally. I think that we have to rethink the meaning and the role of designers, or as designers, we should go for the idea that we have to generate a new sense making, probably in our project, in our work, with the communities, in the daily life. That's, tell me, Fumiko.
No, just like, I think we started this conversation in a very nice way because we all went to somewhere else outside of our comfort zone in a way to observe what is taking place elsewhere, right? But then I think at that point, there was still a bit of myself in there, like I'm going somewhere to observe or like to understand. But the reflection came, of course, as a result, but never thought like what like sort of me or my surrounding or my immediate everyday life as the target of observation, or to sort of change who I am or how I would react to it. But somewhat, because the whole world was locked down and you are yourself and then maybe your family and home, like that's it, right? So it's like activists don't know what to do inside your home. They're like, what am I going to do? What I'm going to observe? So
how can I fool my days?
Exactly. I have been traveling, and Hiroshi has been traveling, and we've never had this kind of such a long time. We just see on screen. We are like 2D, basically.
Yeah. We have not met for more than 3 months.
3-4 months. So
that's a lot. I mean,
as like a co-worker, that's quite a long time. So yeah, basically, I think we have the chances are here, right? Because you have so much opportunities to sort of look or reflect how you are, and then to observe what is happening inside your community. A lot of people say like, oh, I didn't know that neighbor like wakes up at this time of the day, or especially
such obvious things that before you have never noticed.
Or like he's taking shower at this time of the day, or you will realize how different the world can be. So and then that's the opportunity to know and understand your neighborhoods, and also to connect and to understand what it holds. So in that sense, I think, yeah, it's a strong sort of like counter language to public or we, but watashi or I, or sort of like a private space means a lot. I think it's like a beginning of many things to happen outside.
Yeah. It's also connecting to what we were saying before, is a sort of another awareness. I mean, it's not only the awareness of the condition, but it's also an awareness of what's around you. Sometimes we get for granted some things that we never notice, and they are really characterizing our life. And so take some time to just think about what's around you. I think it's very, very important. You touched a very great point. And unfortunately, we only have 3 minutes left in our conversation. But I would like to ask you one last thing. Do you have any advice for future designers? I mean, which kind of future figure or future role do you imagine for designers? You were saying activist before. What do you mean about that?
So in very short, I think designers should be sense makers, or maybe your words awareness makers, and always explore routines, rituals, everyday practices, and they should really enjoy their lives. That makes people can follow. So ultimately, I think everyone can be a designer in this way. So yeah, same as Ezio Manzini argued, that makes everybody's life enriched by utilizing the power of design.
That's great. Fumiko, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's probably designer. I don't know how to define designer depending on how we see it. But if whoever is going to be involved, especially the next generation, right? Like whoever needs to really rethink about the system and then reflect. I think the power that the designer have, like to observe and then to respond and to change things. I think those kind of practices is really about making senses today and tomorrow. So I think Politecnico has been sort of leading that way, and I think we're kind of recognizing that here as well.
Thanks for your charming words, really. Thank you really for being with me, talking about awareness, cultural activism, and involving communities in the design processes has been really exciting, and has been really an important topic in this period, I have to say.
Definitely.
Unfortunately, I have to say goodbye to you because our time has come to an end. And I would like to stay here for another hour to talk about that, but unfortunately, I have to shift to the next speaker. And thank you very much, both of you. Really, thank you for being here. And stay safe, and I hope to see you very soon in Italy or in Japan.
Yes, please.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye-bye
you.
now.
Goodbye.
Bye.